Today we're going to be talking about parallel and perpendicular lines and how it affects how we write equations of those lines. So we're going to write an equation of a line that passes through a given point but parallel to another line. And then we're also going to do one if it's perpendicular to another line. Now the parallel is significantly easier than the perpendicular, but we'll obviously have to do both. So let's start with the parallel. All right, in order for two lines to be parallel, like the two blue lines or the two red lines, they have to have the exact same slope. So the slope of one equation is the slope of the other. So if I tell you the slope of this is 4, this one will also be 4. If I tell you the slope of this one is 0, this one would also have to be 0. So how does that help us? Well, let's look at this. Writing a slope-intercept form of an equation of a line that passes through 4, -2 and is parallel to this graph. Now remember, we need an m and a b in order to go ahead and write an equation. Well, they didn't give us either of those. They gave us another equation and they gave us a point. And we know we use the point to go ahead and find like our b value, but we still need a slope. But this information about it being parallel will actually give us the slope. A line parallel to this one will have to have the exact same slope. So if this slope is 1/2, this one also has to be 1/2. And now that we have our m value, we can just go ahead and find our b by using the 1/2 and our x and y from our point. So b equals our -2, because -2 is y, minus 1/2 times 4. I have to do the 1/2 of 4, which is 2. -2 minus 2 is -4. So m is 1/2 and b is -4. So our equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 4. So it's just a little different way of going ahead and getting our m value by looking at another equation instead of just being given m as 4 or whatever the value is. So let's try another one here. So here we have another one that is parallel. So we're taking a look at the number in front of the x. This is 1/2, so that's my slope. So I put it right in there, 1/2. And then the 2, 3 is our x and our y, so x goes here and y goes there. So 3 1/2 of 2, we multiply is 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So m is 1/2 and b is 2, so we write it as y equals 1/2 x plus 2. Now perpendicular is a little more difficult. It's not as easy as just taking that value off there. They are opposite reciprocals of each other. So notice they do make it like a plus sign or an x or whatever you want to say, but these are right angles. Opposite means we change the sign. So a positive becomes negative. A reciprocal means we flip it. So 1/2 becomes 2/1. A negative becomes a positive 2. So we're always just going to flip the fraction and change its sign. That's what we're going to have to do here. That's what opposite reciprocal means. All right, so let's try this one. So here's a new one. They say it's perpendicular to y equals 4x. So this 4 here, we have to go ahead and flip it. 4 can be written as 4/1. So if I flip it, it becomes 1/4. And again, I have to change its sign. So change its sign and flip it. It's 2 steps. Change the sign to negative and flip it to 1/4. Notice this plus 1, we don't use it at all. All we're using this for, all this is for, is just to tell me this value here. And then we have our x and y, so now we can go ahead and get our b. Once we have our m, we can find our m with our point to find b. So y goes in here at 3, and then -1/4 times 8. Well, -1/4 times 8 is -2. Minus a negative becomes a plus, so it's 5. So 1/4 and 5, we write it as y equals -1/4 x plus 5. Now, occasionally, they're going to go ahead and give us an equation that's not in slope-intercept form. This is standard form. Now, looking back, we went ahead and took things like this and made it y equals in order to graph it. We're going to have to do that same thing here. So we have to find the slope of the given line before we can go ahead and do its opposite reciprocal. So to do that, we're going to have to move the 7x over. Now remember, when we move the 7x over, it becomes negative. So that's where the -7x comes from. Now we want to write that in the correct order. This should have an x here. So 7x plus 3 is what that should say. And then remember, the second thing we do is we are going to divide by that -2. So we divide by the -2, and it's 7/2 minus 3/2. just leave them as fractions. Now again, all I want is this 7/2. So the slope is 7/2, so how do I make it perpendicular? I have to flip it, so 7/2 becomes 2/7, and I have to change its sign. A positive becomes a negative. So now that I have the slope, I can use the point that was given, this 4, -1, and that slope of -2/7. So -2/7 times 4 is -8/7. Really messy, I understand that, but you can leave it as a fraction, double plus, and make that 1/7. So m is -2/7 and b is 1/7. So we can just write our equation -2/7 x plus 1/7. Here's another one. We're just going to do one more just to make sure that we understand that. Again, we're going to have to move the x over first. So subtract the x over, and we got 2y equals -5x plus 2. We're going to divide by 2, and we get -5/2 x. Again, the plus 1 really doesn't matter to us. We're just looking at this number. And the slope that we want now is going to be the opposite reciprocal of that. So we got to flip it to 2/5, and it becomes positive. So now we go ahead and 2/5 times 0 is just 0. 6 minus 0 is just 6. So I have 2/5 and 6. So we write y equals 2/5 x plus 6. And that's what I have for you today.